Our dictator Donald Trump just declared that he has unique superpowers, powers that are actually an abuse of his office and cross a major legal line. This according to experts and the New York Times, and I have all the concerning details for you next in something I like to call
Trump's war on everything.
Let's begin this report of Trump's continued assault on our Constitution, democracy, and basic decency with this story out of Portland, the latest city targeted for one of his theatrical invasions. Caitlin Collins talked with the police chief there who revealed that Trump's claims that his city is a war zone is a complete lie. And you won't believe how small of an area the actual disturbance covers. Have a look, and then I'll have the New York Times bombshell.
Hear from you when it comes to, first off, the National Guard being in place. Have you seen them? Do you know what they're doing there?
No, they are not in place at this time. They're receiving some additional training. We believe they'll probably be deployed in the coming days, but they're not in place right now.
Okay, so you haven't seen them in your city?
No.
And do you believe having them there is necessary? Do you need them there?
No, just as you highlighted a moment ago, we're talking about one city block in 145 square miles. Certainly been some challenges down at the facility. Portland Police has been engaged down there extensively over the last 9 months. We've made over 20 arrests ourselves. We've conducting assault investigations ongoing. We're working closely with our federal partners, but the facility itself is managed and governed by the Federal Protective Service. And they have responsibility for that. And the incidents you speak of, for example, last night, occurring on their property. But Portland is very much engaged. And once again, this is just one small block in a big city that we're trying to manage for all the Portlanders.
And so for people who aren't in Portland, and what we've heard from federal officials describing what they say is the situation on the ground there, you're saying that doesn't align with what you've seen and what your officers have seen.
Correct. I mean, the city is in a tremendous state of renewal. We recognize that 20 and 21 were some tough times, but 2025, we see crime down double digits in nearly all major categories. We're seeing, high return foot traffic downtown. We've hosted some of our largest conventions in the city's history this year, large scale sporting events, et cetera. So no, it's not lining up.
Imagine my surprise to learn that Trump is lying about Portland. Trump is forcing armed troops into an urban environment just for the optics and so he can say that crime was reduced in that one block area and then claim success. We've seen it before, and it is not a stretch to think he hopes they are met with some resistance so he can further escalate his abuse of power. And speaking of further escalation, Trump has just declared that the United States is at war so he can expand his abuse of power. Our featured story from the New York Times begins with the headline, Trump determined the U.S. is now at war with drug cartels, Congress is told.
President Trump has decided that the United States is engaged in a formal armed conflict with drug cartels his team has labeled terrorist organizations, and that suspected smugglers for such groups are unlawful combatants, the administration said in a confidential notice to Congress this week. The notice was sent to several congressional committees and obtained by the New York Times. It adds new detail to the administration's thinly articulated legal rationale for why 3 U.S. military strikes the president ordered on boats in the Caribbean Sea last month, killing all 17 people aboard them, should be seen as lawful rather than murder. Mr. Trump's move to formally deem his campaign against drug cartels as an active armed conflict means he is cementing his claim to extraordinary wartime powers, legal specialists said. In an armed conflict, as defined by international law, a country can lawfully kill enemy fighters even when they pose no threat, detain them indefinitely without trials, and prosecute them in military courts. Jeffrey S. Korn, a retired judge advocate general lawyer who was formerly the Army's senior advisor for law of war issues, said drug cartels were not engaged in hostilities, the standard for when there is an armed conflict for legal purposes, against the United States because selling a dangerous product is different from an armed attack. Noting that it is illegal for the military to deliberately target civilians who are not directly participating in hostilities, even suspected criminals, Mr. Korn called the president's move an abuse that crossed a major legal line. This is not stretching the envelope, he said. This is shredding it. This is tearing it apart. The notice to Congress did not specifically name any of the drug cartels with which Mr. Trump claims the United States is engaged in an armed conflict. It also did not specify any standards the administration is using to determine whether particular suspects have sufficient links to such groups for the military to kill them. Senator Jack Reed of Rhode Island, the top Democrat on the Armed Services Committee, accused Mr. Trump of deciding that he could wage secret wars against anyone he calls an enemy. The president offered no credible legal justification, evidence, or intelligence for the strikes, Mr. Reed said.
Those are just the highlights. For the full story by Charlie Savage and Eric Schmidt, please visit the New York Times website. Donald Trump is once again inventing powers that do not exist in the Constitution. By declaring that drug cartels are a non-state armed group that we are engaged in a war with, he is granting himself a path to bypass Congress and due process by framing criminals as a unified force, to give himself a blank check to detain and even kill without oversight. He's not protecting anyone. He's manufacturing war to grant himself wartime powers, and that should be terrifying to anyone who values the rule of law. I'm Dan, thank you for watching, and now I want to know what you think. Please comment below, and let's continue to occupy democracy together.